Hello out there. It's chilly today in Houston, so I'm dressed accordingly. And I was thinking about it before I shot this video. I want you to think of sitting in front of a fireplace. It's nice and warm and comfortable, and we're having a conversation. And my hope is that with this series that I'm going to do, and they are a series of individual topics, that you will want to have a further conversation about how this applies to you. I titled this Lifetime Growing and Navigating Over Sandbars. I chose sandbars because I come out of a maritime background, and if you gently hit a sandbar, you can back off usually and get clear. If you run into it, you may need help getting off. And 2020 was a pretty good example of a sandbar, continued in 21 with COVID and some of the other challenges that we all had to face. But the reality is we're going to have sandbars in our journey as we progress. And so that is what I'm trying to cover today. Now, there's a book that really impacted my thinking on this. It is called Upstream by Dan Heath. And he talks about three issues that I think are worth discussing. First is problem blindness. We don't see the problem, or it seems inevitable. I think that COVID is a good example of not seeing the problem, as an example. Also, there is the issue of lack of ownership. This is really not my problem to solve. And we all deal with this in some form or fashion. And finally, tunneling. And that is, I cannot deal with that right now. I don't have the bandwidth. So if your paycheck hits your account every month, and it's between $5,000 and $6,000 that clears into your account, depending upon your marital status, you're definitely in a minority. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about primarily what goes to the IRS. And I thought I'd start with this because this is problem blindness as an example. And it means that for every $700, every $1,000 that goes to the IRS, 700 comes from one of us that has incomes that exceed, I'm married, so mine would be $6,000. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're going to use a simple example, and we're going to talk about problem blindness in a little more of an example at this point. For every $100 that you receive in dividends, and I'm shooting this in January, so you will be getting a 1099 that'll be reporting these. And you go to your CPA or your tax preparer, and he or she says you owe $20, or you may owe $40, two of these, which means you either end up with $60 or $80 out of every 100 that came in. Now, in the ideal situation, I'd like to keep the 100, but if you get what are called ordinary dividends, you may end up with $60. Qualified dividends means that the corporation has already paid taxes, and you could end up with $80. Now, when you go to your tax preparer, they're going to tell you what that number is. They don't, unless you specifically ask for it, you won't know, but you might ask if they tell you you owe X amount for the IRS, or if you're getting a refund, you might say to them, how many of those are impacted by ordinary dividends, and if I had qualified dividends, what would that impact be? I'm going to discuss each of these now in more detail in a following set of videos. So hopefully this is clear. I'm not recommending any specific items. I'm just talking generically about what I see, having spent now in my 6th decade of dealing with finances and investments. Thank you very much.